Martin Hill.
Well, there have been commercials for a while. They're just embedded in a way that is very clever, you know. But no, they are, our God of War tier members are able to submit commercials or whatever they want to share. That is actually quite an amazing let me turn off this music. That is quite an amazing thing. That is from it's Day One Patch Kids from one of our members. It's actually quite cool. I will be able to give a set of his cards away pretty soon, which are basically Garbage Pail Kids cards that he has done with video game characters. They're very, very cool. They're very awesome. He does t-shirts and all kinds of stuff. There'll be a link in a moment that if you're curious, I highly recommend it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Gabna Games for April 5th. By the way, today's the last day. If you don't sign up for the God of War tier member, don't mind at all. But tomorrow I am procuring the gifts for God of War members for April. And I need to know exactly how many. So come midnight tonight, California time. If you're not in, don't worry about it. You'll have another chance down the road. Now, today's theme, as I say in the Twitter, is change. I have been in the industry for over 20 years. I guess I'm now tangentially, peripherally involved in the industry. I'm not actually working in it for the last couple of years. But I've been in it about 24, 25 years, and I've been an avid fan of it many years before that, growing up since I was like 5 and played my first video game. The constant has changed. That's a cliche. That's a trope, but it's true. But I have never seen the sorts of just seismic shifting that is happening in the industry all roughly around the same year. So everything, for the most part, we're going to be talking about today is change that's happening. We're going to start off with some of the smaller bits of news of the day, and then we're going to get to the main event, which is obviously what is happening just in the last week alone. Whether you're a fan of Sony or Xbox, if you're actually a gamer, you should be a fan of both because they're both phenomenal. But ultimately, whatever you're a fan of, you can't deny that something's a-coming, as they say on Doctor Who. Something's on the way. And we're going to talk a lot about that. I want to let you know on the chats and the memberships, I will absolutely be calling them out. I will be reading them. I will be doing them on this particular stream at a very specific time. So, for example, Uncle Fuzznuts, I can't tell you how grateful I am for that amazing generosity for the God of War tier that you just subscribed to. Thank you very much, sir. I will give that a little bit more of my attention as it deserves in just a little bit, okay? Because I want to keep the chat rolling, but I will absolutely give it its due because it is incredibly kind, whatever tier you subscribe at. Thank you very much. And Fuzznuts, thanks for that massive generosity. What's really interesting, though, is what is happening. Let's start briefly. Let's start with some simple changes. We will get to Game Pass. We will get to Sony. We will get to people talking about let's fire Jim Ryan. There's a very interesting poll over on NeoGAF right now where you can rate Jim Ryan, who obviously you know if you don't is the CEO of Play or the head of PlayStation. You can rate an A to F score like in school his performance. If you want to go over there and cast your vote before we get to it, because I'm going to show you where it stands when we get to talking about that in about 20 minutes, you should do that. But let's talk change first. This is just creative change. I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know how you feel about this. By the way, just one more thing. The phone lines are always open. You can call whenever you want. I will bring you on the show so you can share your views about the topics of the day with all the nice folks watching. So I don't know what you think about this. IO Interactive, that are famous for the Hitman game, as you know, they have the rights to make James Bond. They announced a little bit more data today. They're talking to IGN and they say, well, you know, here's what I'm going to read you the quote. They're basically saying we're drawing inspiration from James Bond's movies, the comics, the books, We want to have our own narrative, and as you may know, they want to have their own James Bond. It's not going to be based on Timothy Dalton, thank God. It's not going to be based on Daniel Craig or Roger Moore or Sean Connery. It's a brand new character. If you didn't know it was James Bond, you would look at him and go, that's just some random British dude, right? But what they're saying is their Bond is they want to have a Bond for the gaming industry. So when you look at this James Bond from IO Interactive, if it works, it will be almost like there are different Batmans, right? There's now at the moment, right? There is the Ben Affleck Batman and the Robert Pattinson Batman. They live in the same metaverse of DC, but they're clearly two different stories going on. And I think what they're saying is we want to own the James Bond rights, not own it legally, but we want to plant the flag for what James Bond means in a video game. So obviously, if that works, that is fantastic. What a great feather in your cap. What a great idea. What a great thing to own. However, at that point, because they're going down this road, that change, because that's the first James Bond game I can think of where you weren't playing a specific version of James Bond. Maybe back in the Atari 2600 days when they had a James Bond game from Parker Brothers, he was so pixely, who the fuck is he? He's the George Lazenby Bond, right? But ultimately, this is the first time since you could actually tell what James Bond looked like in a video game that they're saying, yeah, we're getting rid of the actor's likeness. At that point, you have to go, this game better be fucking crackerjack great to begin with, because if it's not, it's just going to look like some generic spy game. The best case is it blows people's minds and it does begin to be Bond. But then in that case, you start to go, well, Jesus, IO, you should have fucking made your own fucking thing. You know, why even get James Bond if you're going to build all this from the ground up? Make your own fucking spy. So we'll see what's going to happen. I don't know. I don't know how people feel about this. I don't know when this comes out and he's got the martinis. Is it the martinis? Shaken, not stirred. And he's got the Aston Martin, and he's got the great opening with the bullet barrel going down it with the blood dripping down. Maybe all that will be enough to go, oh, I feel like I'm playing a James Bond game. But I'm not entirely sure if most people are going to pick it up and go, well, what am I playing this? AJC in the chat says that's the smart way to go for 007. It doesn't have to be linked to a movie. I think, again, creatively, I don't think you're wrong at all. I just think, you know, is the average James Bond fan going to understand what they're looking at if it doesn't look like Daniel Craig? Connor says, I want them to at least put a tribute to Connery. Need to salute the king. Yeah, I mean, I would like to see that as well. I don't know if they're building... James Bond is not like Doctor Who, or he's not like The Phantom, if you know who that is. He's not like, you know, Daniel Craig's 007 doesn't have any knowledge of Roger Moore's 007. They're playing the same guy. It's just a different actor. I don't know if that series would be better if they started to just say, there's always a new James Bond. The reason he's always called James Bond is it's like Jason Bourne. We don't know his name. You'll never know his name. He's always 007. He's always James Bond. And so, yes, the Roger Moore James Bond from 1983 in Octopussy is James Bond, but so is Daniel Craig. And if those two were still alive, they could get together and have a reunion. So we'll see what happens. But that's the small change. Let's get to the bigger changes. Because a lot of people I can see in the chat already, a lot of you guys are talking about Game Pass and Jim Ryan. We're going to get to that. But let me tell you something. What is happening? And I don't think it's bad. I think it's progress. I'm turning 50 years old this year. In a couple of weeks, man. You know, a lot of you guys who watch the stream are younger than me, and I understand that the first pangs of you losing your grip on cultural relevancy and understanding, it's not comfortable. You eventually settle in, but it's not comfortable. That may be what a bunch of you motherfuckers are going through right now. Because even the idea, if I were to tell my kids and their younger friends and a little bit older friends that people are worried about who's going to win the console war, they'd be like, wait, what? What the fuck's a console war? And they play games with their friends all the time, more so during the pandemic, right? If you look at your screen, if you're not driving around, there's a picture from a company called, they're not called Little World. Their game is called Little World. This is a company called GameFam, which is a professional game development company made up of people who have come from, where did these guys? They came from Blizzard, Zynga, Ubisoft. They have made their own Roblox company. That is how big Roblox is. Roblox dwarfs the number of people per day that play a game on Roblox, dwarfs the fuck out of Xbox and Sony combined, okay? Kids are coming up today not being loyal to Crash Bandicoot and PlayStation 1 and 2. They're loyal to the oof sound. They're loyal to the Roblox world, okay? So this is a professional game company that has said, you know, why don't we just make a shit ton of money in Roblox? And they are. They're able to pay their employees. They're making well over six figures, or they're making into six figures every single month. And they have an actual real business going, working in Roblox. Yeah, your kid says bacon represent the margin. My kids don't, bacon. Here's the way I know my kids do not represent the margin. They don't represent the margin because this is a company that is currently valued at $41.9 billion. Okay? This is not, I'm not telling you, oh, my kids discovered this little weird thing. And it's kind of crazy. And I'm just kind of caught up in their excitement. This is big business. Sweetness says it's because kids don't know any better. Well, it doesn't matter if they know any better. It's what they know. Anyway, there's some change coming down the road. You know, here's just more. I'm buttering you guys up. I'm softening the ground, as they say, to get to the PlayStation news in just a second. But this is just more. And I'm not really doing it to be a dick to you guys. I'm doing it because the value of being able to talk about this great business and love it and be fans of it is it's important to actually separate from your emotions sometimes if you're actually trying to have a logical discussion about this stuff, because it's important, because it tells you which way the wind is blowing. It tells you what gamers are responding to. This is global spending for mobile games is up 25%. Okay. Just in the last, is it the last quarter? What did they say? Consumers, it's up 25% from the same period last year. Consumers spent $22.2 billion in the first quarter of this year, okay, on mobile games. That's 25% more than they spent last year. Apple Arcade the other day just launched 80 games. These are not shitty little mobile games with microtransactions. These are good games. I'm playing the new RPG from the guy who made Final Fantasy, Sakaguchi, I think. I mean, it's not groundbreaking, but it is absolutely comfort food. It is absolutely, you know, if you grew up playing the Final Fantasy games up to 7 before they got just bloated, Chrono Trigger, it feels like that. It feels like Phantasy Star, not Phantasy Star Online, but Phantasy Star 3, right? It's a good game. I don't think it's the absolute best RPG ever, but to sit on the toilet and play a fucking RPG by the granddaddy of RPGs, that's not too bad. It's not too goddamn bad. I'm not going to talk about that right now. Okay, now let's get into it. Let's get into Jim Ryan. And I'm only bringing, Davaclin, I think that's your name, says, Jaffe, is this some kind of bullshit setup? I only want the Jimbo salsa. I understand. But it really is related. There's a lot of other news happening today. I'm going to push to a recorded show or whatever. But this is all related because I think you guys get blinded by a very weird thing called company loyalty, which I don't understand. And I worked for Sony. I made a lot of money working for Sony. Not as much as you think I did, but they were very generous, right? I love a lot of those people still over at Sony. But the idea of being loyal to a company, it don't make any goddamn sense. But that's not really what we're talking about. But I'm only sharing this data with you guys because perhaps in having the data shared with you, you'll go, yeah, maybe we shouldn't be so, myopic and focused on an individual company. Okay, well, here's, I'm going to tell you that. I'll save that one till the end. That's a good fucking meaty story. Hang on. I'll save that till the goddamn end. All right, here we go. Now we know, and again, by the way, I will obviously be reading the chat. I will obviously be reading the super chats. But if you really want your opinion heard, the best way to get on the show and express yourself is to call. Not because I don't read the chat and not because you have to super chat, but I am trying to stay focused and moving forward. And it's very easy to get distracted if I look at the chat. So I'm just saying you don't have to pay to be heard. you can call and I'll bring you on. I very rarely don't bring somebody on. So just letting you know, if you're out there yelling, going, "You moron, what about this?" Just fucking call on the Discord. Here's an example right here. This is Master Luck, just drops a huge super chat. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. It's very generous. He says, "Sorry to interrupt. That's what it's for, pal. I've always been curious the percentage of profits IP owners get. Like, how is everything split up?" Again, thank you for that generosity. It's appreciated. Sorry to interrupt. The percentage of profits IP owners get, it is absolutely case by case, right? So if you are the guy who invented the Cyberpunk brand or the Witcher brand, and I know they were like peripherally involved in the games, but I don't think those guys were sitting there at CD Projekt Red day in and day out as team members of the game, right? So to them, it's like, yeah, you can have my IP. Depending on how valuable the IP is, they can negotiate net or gross profits based on, gross meaning that the minute the company makes their first sale, they are seeing money, a quarter for every copy sold, or if it's net after all the people have been paid to make the game and market the game, then they start splitting the money. If you're Marvel, like if you're looking on your screen right now, I've got the Avengers up that's coming to PlayStation now, which of course we're going to talk about. Marvel Games and ultimately Disney owns the IP, and they probably got a big chunk of change from Square because Square wanted to make Avengers, and Square said, "We'll pay you this much money." And then every copy that gets sold is probably a very large percentage, and certainly more as it hits certain thresholds, because the Avengers property is much more lucrative and valuable at the moment than the Cyberpunk version. So that intellectual property. So it's absolutely case by case basis. If you're asking about people who work at video game companies, I'm in the credits for God of War 1 as lead designer, lead writer, and game director. So you could say if there's anyone who has a right to say, not that any one person creates a video game unless you're talking super tiny indie games. If anyone has a right to say, "I'm the creator of the intellectual property," I could say, okay, me, Charlie Wynn, Shannon, Corey, Tim, there's a lot of us, but let's just, but because we did it work for hire, we don't make any cash after we leave the company. They don't own us anything. Okay. Or owe us anything. All right, so that's the answer. Thank you so much for the super chat, sir. So listen, April new games, this is how we're going to kick this off. You guys are saying rest in peace Jimbo, saying Jim Ryan. We are going to get to that. Some people today have taken this as a sign that Sony is finally fighting back against Game Pass. Maybe that's true. It's a nice announcement. It would have been a nice announcement at launch. But it ain't nothing, and I certainly will play it again on PlayStation 5 because I want to see the upgrade to Avengers, and I want to see eventually, whenever, Spider-Man ain't coming this year anyway, but they're saying Spider-Man's going to be exclusive to Sony, so it's not bad to have PlayStation Now. It certainly helps, but this is still not one-to-one. Sony is still struggling, at least optically. Maybe behind the scenes, they're like, dude, we're going to get there. But right now, they're struggling, as consumers perceive it, to counter what is becoming a very real problem, which is Game Pass. And I'm not here to proselytize Game Pass. I happen to adore it, but I'm here to talk to you about what is happening in the landscape. You can't, and things happen this week that you cannot deny. And it's not just the MLB thing. No one's like, well, big deal, Jaffe, it's a baseball game. No one's talking about the baseball game, okay? That is a big deal, but that in and of itself is not the big part of it. The big part of it is another brick that is being laid to make people say, Game Pass, Game Pass, Game Pass. Do you know what I did this weekend that I fell in love with? Is this game, Dirt 5. Dirt 5 is free on Game Pass, okay? I would have never picked up Dirt 5. I heard it was too simmy. I heard the whole Dirt series is just not for me. I'd rather play Hot Shot Racing, which is also on Game Pass, by the way. But I was on Game Pass. Somebody in the stream said, Jaffe, it's really fucking good. And I decided, fuck it, I'm going to go ahead and play it. So I played it, and I absolutely fucking loved it. And what ended up happening was I was like, wait a minute, this is free. This is not Dirt 4. This game just came out a month or two ago, or it was a Christmas release. This is very new. And it's been on Game Pass for about a month. And I'm like, is this free on PS Now? I don't think so. If you go to PlayStation, you have to still pay $60 for this motherfucking game. So now think about it. You've got Dirt. You've got Outriders, which is great. I really enjoyed that. You've got MLB, right? And so what I'm saying is you're starting to now see more than just the indie games coming along. Like for the longest time, it's like, yeah, you get day one drop of indie games and first party Xbox. Who gives a shit? That was the PlayStation fanboy rallying cry, right? It doesn't matter. Well, first off, I love indie games. Some of the most creative work in the business is happening in indie games. But that aside, fine. Even though Xbox Game Pass just announced a month ago, 3 weeks ago, that over 50 brand new games for indie studios are coming day one to Game Pass. Fine, you don't care about that. You probably did care about it back when it was a selling point for PS4 if you're just a total, blinders on fanboy. But now indies, fuck it, who cares? Okay, fine, that's fair. So indies don't impress you. First party games from Xbox, understandably, are nowhere near as good as what Sony first party pumps out. But even with the acquisitions of Bethesda and Tequila Gameworks and Arcane, doesn't impress me. Okay, well now you're starting to see third-party big $60 titles hitting day one or within a couple of weeks or a month or so on these services. And it wasn't, today's Avengers is Sony literally saying, we have to respond at this point. Somebody wake Jim Ryan up and tell him to fucking punch back, okay? Because this wouldn't be happening without Dirt, MLB, Outriders. This is the beginning of this change where I know a lot of you guys don't want to like it, but it is what it is. And here's how I know it's working, by the way. Here's how I know it's working. And it is not a non-issue. Is it Nerifit in the chat says, PlayStation fans will still buy the games. This is really a non-issue. It is not a non-issue, but I'll tell you why in just a minute. Let me get to this super chat real quick, which I appreciate. This comes from Doviclin. Says, truth is Jimbo Ryan is perfect to handle the massive PS4 market, but 9th gen is a whole new ball game. Xbox made a 360 and changed the landscape. Meaning not 360, but they didn't do a 360. They did a 180. Because to quote or to paraphrase Last Action Hero, if you did a 360, you'd basically start and turn around and end up right back where you started. So I think you're saying they did a 180, but regardless, your money still spends. And I think you have a good point. And thank you for the super chat. You have a very good point, which is the biggest danger with Jim Ryan is that he is, and look, I'm not saying this to be ageist. There are a lot of people in their 60s and 70s who are absolutely, very on about, Rupert Murdoch for a while, Bob Iger. I'm not, you can, a lot of the best executives are up there. I'm not saying Jim Ryan can't hang with it, but the fear with Jim Ryan is, and it may just be the optics because Sony hasn't announced anything yet. When they do, people will breathe a sigh of relief who love Sony or who love PlayStation. But the current optics are, you're a dinosaur, you don't get it. And just like you are saying, Daviclin, that, yeah, he is kind of great for eras past where most games were sold in boxes at GameStop and Best Buy. And, he could fight like the Dickens for end caps at Circuit City. But that's not this anymore. And if that's true, they're in a lot of trouble. But we'll talk about that. But here's how I know. I'm going to give you guys 2 data points that you may or may not be aware of. I'm going to give you 3 data points, actually. Whereas in the past, this was just speculation. Oh, Jaffe, you're wrong. Oh, Game Pass fans, you're wrong. PlayStation is the best. They have the best games. That will always be the thing that rules the roost. Ha ha, you're just dumb. Okay, fine. Fair enough. I'm not an I told you so guy, but I told you so. Okay, and I'm going to give you 3 data points as to why. Here's the first one. And these are tiny These are little rumbles. These are pre-earthquakes. What do they call them? Foreshocks. These are foreshocks. Okay? Console Series S was India's best-selling console in March 2021. Okay? A lot of people, they said, went in to get PS4s. India is a huge PlayStation audience. I think somebody was saying they're about 80%. No, Sony openly admits to having 90% of India's console market share. Okay? People were going in to get PS4s because they can't get PS5s. And India comes out and they're basically saying, I'll read you what the store executives say. Most of them showed up to buy PS4s. The quote, when we told them, this is from IGN, when we told them it was out of stock and explained to them what Game Pass is and how many games they get access to, they picked up a Series S instead. This isn't just the case offline either. Multiple online retailers have seen an uptick in Xbox S sales while the console has routinely been on India's best-selling list. Okay? So ultimately, there's one data point. We know that GameStop in America has a deal with Microsoft. Their people are going to push Xbox because it's no longer going to be conspiracy on the internet. This was a news story 4 or 5 months ago. Microsoft signed a deal with GameStop. Such as buying GameStop is. Who the fuck cares? But regardless, that's where you go to get the hardware a lot of times, if not the software, of course. They signed a deal with GameStop. All the employees are going to be walking around soon with Surface Pads from Microsoft, and the stores get bonuses. And I don't know if they get paid out to the managers or to everyone or the sales guy who does it, if they push not games, but Xbox peripherals. So buy a new controller for your Xbox, buy a headset. All of that goes into a bonus pool for that store. Okay, so A, they're pushing it regardless. B, when you tell people what Game Pass is, you're seeing in India, it's making a difference. Let me give you another example, though, because maybe you're like, that's not enough. That's not enough information, Jaffe, to sort of have trust in that. Fine. Outriders debuts at number 6, and this is the UK. But what's interesting is Outriders on PlayStation is 52% of sales, and the PS5 is 52%, the PS4 is 31%. Only 17% people bought it on Xbox, but the number of concurrent players on Outriders, even with its bugs this weekend, Outriders is a more successful launch for Square Enix in terms of concurrent players in the first 3 days than Avengers was, okay? People are playing this, and most people are playing this on Xbox, but they're playing it on Xbox through Game Pass. So here you are, another example. Those friends of yours who are ultimately playing cross-gen with you, upwards of 80% of people who basically played the goddamn thing on PS5 and 4 are playing with friends who say, oh, I got this for free on Game Pass. That information is going to continue to trickle out. And it is going to become a groundswell if Sony doesn't wake the fuck up. And here is how I know that this is not, this is a real problem. Here's the biggest data point. This is not that, by the way, but even you've got mainstream websites talking about how the Xbox deal looks terrible for Sony, right? So, I mean, we know this is true, but here we go. Here's how we know the gamers are actually getting worried because they're seeing the writing on the wall. There's 2 things that happened at NeoGAF recently. One is this guy's like, they locked this thread because it was getting out of hand over at NeoGAF. Hello, Zanmoff. They locked the thread. Can you guys put all your Game Pass preaching posts in an OT? Okay? So people are getting tired of hearing about Game Pass that aren't Game Pass fans, right? They don't like it. PlayStation fans don't like hearing about it, right? Because it is poking at what they know and don't want to admit is a weakness. Here's another way I know it. The calls for Jim Ryan to get out on the internet. There's currently a what do you call it? A petition. Let's get Jim Ryan out of his position as CEO of or head of PlayStation. Rate Jim Ryan's performance. Okay, let's see. I'm not going to rate it, but I am going to view the results. Here we go. What do you guys think is going to come up? Well, you could be looking right now, so I'm not going to give you a chance to guess. Sweetness, ask me that when we get off this topic. I'm more than happy to answer it. Okay, here we go. So the vast majority, 62 votes out of whatever, but 40% have given the guy an F, 17 have given him a C. People want to see, B-Fan says the success of Game Pass makes Sony insane. Locke says Jaffe's turning on Sony. No, I'm not. What I'm telling you is actually if Sony is smart, Sony is in a great position. Sony is in a goddamn great position. And again, you guys have to understand, Sony may be, again, we are having this conversation simply based on what we've been allowed to know at the moment. That's it, right? It's very possible that Sony, because we know they filed the patent for backwards compatibility trophies for emulated games. We know they're shutting down the PS3 store, the PSP and Vita store. We assume that's because they're going to fold the emulated games across the board into whatever PS Now 2.0 becomes. They're not morons, okay? There is a real danger that Jim Ryan could be asleep at the wheel and could think it's still 2016. That's possible. We have no evidence to assume it's not. I see a lot of people in the chat asking, is Jim Ryan even a gamer? I don't think so. I don't think he goes home like Scott Rhodey does, like Shuhei does, or even like Sean Layden did, and plays video games. I don't think if you ask him, hey, where is your character? Which character are you playing in Genshin Impact? Or who do you main in Smash Brothers? I don't think he would probably know what the fuck you're talking about. But that's not necessary for him to. That doesn't, it would be nice. But I think the bigger problem is there is a danger that perhaps he doesn't know what's going on and he thinks it's still the way it was and Microsoft's about to eat their lunch. But it's also possible, somebody in the chat's like, Sony fans are impatient. Absolutely. You guys remember it wasn't so long ago, Sony fans were like, Xbox is telling us everything and Sony's saying nothing. Something must be wrong at Sony before they announced PS5. Sony was like, no, we're just not ready to talk yet. Fuck you. We're number one. We'll talk when we want to talk. That's absolutely what could be happening here. Okay? But regardless, I'm not turning on Sony. What I am telling you is just like with XBLA, Xbox was really first to market explaining to gamers that things don't have to be in a box and $60. PC gamers knew this. But to console gamers, it was kind of a revelation. Geometry Wars? What do you mean it's only $9 and it's awesome? What are you talking about? What the fuck is that, right? Explosion Man? What are you talking about, right? There was a time this was a brand new concept. Sony eventually got on board, and their quality of games, remember they put out a Ratchet and Clank, sort of a short Ratchet and Clank for like $20, and it blew the fuck away out of the XBLA games? Or remember they put out Flower and Flow and Journey? Microsoft got there first, but Sony did it better. If Sony's not asleep, and Sony knows how to adjust to this particular situation, they always have the trump card. The trump card, if you're not a moron, is the quality of their games that so far they're better at than Microsoft first party, okay? But if Microsoft first party starts accumulating a large percentage of these third-party $60 games and their studio acquisitions are at least 50% successful in making games people love, the convenience of Game Pass and the volume of Game Pass and the low barrier of entry of Game Pass, you're going to start seeing what happened in India happening everywhere. Because once the news gets out, if Sony is not ready with the counterpunch, and it ain't Avengers day one, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to mean Uncharted 5 and God of War Ragnarok day one. But there is something in between they could be doing to be competitive, and they would totally wipe the floor with Microsoft given their consistency of quality because of how good they are at making first-party games, okay? So I am absolutely not suggesting that Sony's fucked. Sony's only fucked if they don't respond. And more importantly, as fans out there of PlayStation, you guys need to be more logical and less emotional, right? Because you need to be able to look at this and say, I don't particularly, one of the things, I'll get to both these super chats in a second, I apologize. One of the things I see a lot of, well, I like to own my games. Okay, that's fine. No one's going to keep you from owning your games for the most part unless they're digital only. Not a problem. But you say that like you're speaking for the masses. The masses don't care about owning their movies. The masses don't care that Tom and Jerry is no longer available on HBO Max and won't be for 3 more months. The masses don't care that Wonder Woman 1984 is now something you have to pay to rent where it was free for a month on HBO Max. They watch it, they don't, they move on with their fucking life, right? That's 99% of the market. They don't care about owning their games. You guys, just like that's why I started with the Roblox thing. You think the people who are obsessed with Roblox that made it a $40+ billion company are like, but I want to own my little obstacle course game I play on Roblox. I want to own Fortnite. No, they don't. No one cares, right? And it's not saying you're wrong that you care. I'm saying you're wrong in that you're caring. You're wrong because you assume what you care about is what the business cares about. That's where you're wrong. And it would be nice if we could have a meeting of the minds and we could just have a conversation that says, oh yeah, no, I get it. Like cinephiles get it. They go, yeah, everybody's going to go streaming now. I like that I can still buy my Blu-rays and my Criterion collections and all that, but they're not in denial. Their heads aren't in the sand that digital streaming or subscription services are the past. They're like, no, I love movies. I love records. And Brian King, I love you, but Brian says films last 1.5 hours. Games are like jobs, not comparable. It's totally comparable because in fact, it's even a better equation, right? Because you can argue that a movie that's an hour and a half you want to put on for your kids over and over, or there's a comfort movie that you like to watch every year, fine. But how many, seriously, I'm not saying you don't, Brian, but how many people actually go back and replay 20, 30, 40, 100-hour games? Really? I'm not saying you don't, but the majority of people when they finish, which the majority of people don't even finish games, but the majority of people when they say, I've had enough of playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I played it for 40 hours. I'm not near the end. Fucking, I'm moving on with my goddamn life. The majority of those people are not going to go back and go, but I want to own it because I want to play it again. They're not. They're just simply not. That is not normal. It's not bad behavior, Brian, but it's not normal behavior. Okay, let me get to these super chats, which I very much appreciate. Fellas, we got 2 of them that just came in while I was rambling like a moron. Basement Radio Arcade Podcast, my good friends. This is what they say. They say, Jaffe, I didn't think Microsoft could turn the tables on Sony, but they may very well have. God damn it, Jaffe, come on now. But they may very well have with Game Pass. If Microsoft first party hits like Sony, watch out. Even if they don't, okay, I know good and well that if I play Dirt 5, and thank you for that, Basement, I know good and well that if I play Dirt 5 on PS5, I'm going to get the haptics, I'm going to get my graphics probably a little bit better. But you know what? It's not worth $60 to me, right? It's worth being part of a service, and I'm like, oh, that was fun. I spent the weekend obsessed with Dirt 5. Fantastic. I'm moving on with my fucking life. But so you're right that Microsoft first party has to deliver, but I don't think you're right that Microsoft first party has to deliver like Sony, right? They can put out another Gears of War, or they can put out a brand new action adventure game, and it's not Sony first party quality, but it's more than good enough to entertain. Like, remember, we were on the stream and we played Gears of War, what was it called? Hive Busters, the co-op game. It was like a 4-hour co-op campaign. We played it in one sitting. It was a great deal of fun. It looked really nice. It played great. And we went on with our fucking lives, right? It wasn't Game of the Year material. No one cared. It wasn't like it's not worth playing. I would rather, and I think most consumers would rather, have 50 of those a year than 3 games a year that are just like, oh, next generation game of the millennia or whatever. I'm not saying those games aren't important. I'm saying that you got to think more consumers probably don't agree with that very aficionado view. Elias says, Jaffe, thank you for the chat. He says, Sony doesn't have the amount of money Microsoft has, and that's why Sony can't counter Game Pass. That is absolutely not true. You're right about the first part of your sentence, which is they don't have the amount of money. Yeah, absolutely. But they can counter. They can absolutely counter. They can counter by saying, look, we're going to bring our first-party titles to PlayStation Now within 6 months to 18 months after they launch. We'll give you guys a window so you'll know they're coming. So we'll up the value of that. It's like you're not going to get Uncharted 5 for free at first, but you are going to get it on Game Pass if you want to wait. We're not going to have, and we're going to go aggressively after indies, and we're going to go aggressively after some of these third-party games like they did with Avengers, and we're going to start funding 5, 8, 10 to $20 million gambles that are meant to drop day one on Game Pass right out the gate. And they're not arty-farty bullshit things. As much as I love Journey and Flowers, one of my favorite games of all time, it ain't that shit. It's like Lost Legacy or Ratchet and Clank. I don't mean necessarily built on the franchises they own, but certainly possibly. But it is commercial. It is like we want to make $10 to $20 million commercial bets. They're not art games. They're not trying to be personal visions. They are commercial rolls of the dice that drop day one, that up the value for a lot of gamers to say, I want to play more on PlayStation Now than I want to play on Game Pass. Here's how I know this is going to happen. Because Netflix over the weekend announced, do you know how much money they paid for the rights to make sequels to Knives Out 1? They have the rights now to that intellectual property. This is not the budget for those movies. This is what they paid just to say Netflix now owns the IP Knives Out. Okay? $400 million. Because they have to compete with HBO Max. They have to compete with Disney Plus, right? Same thing here. Whether Jim Ryan figures it out or Jim Ryan's gone and the correct heir to the throne, Scott Rhodey, gets in there, someone's going to drive the car to the goddamn finish line, which is we have to make PlayStation Now competitive. We have to make it a better alternative than Game Pass. And not only do we have to, but we're fucking morons if we don't, because we make better games consistently than Xbox. So that is our trump card. Their Achilles heel is they got there first. They have a great business model. The world is slowly starting to wake up to it. India's there, right? Soon it's going to be all over the place, but they're waking up to it. But Sony can win that battle, but not if they don't. If they just start, figure it out, Jim Ryan. It's exactly right. All right, that's my pitch. That's my spiel. I will give the chat their due. Again, if you want to call in, if you want to talk in the chat, all of that's great. But that's the essence of what I have to say. And now at this point, I will turn it over to you guys, and you let me know where I'm right, where I'm wrong, what I'm missing. Okay. Okay, well, Signal says no artsy-fartsy stuff. That's why so many love PlayStation. I understand that, okay? I totally get that. But Journey doesn't pay the bills. It pays the bills for that game company. It's not like Journey put bread on the table for Sony executives, okay? It was a great feather in the cap for PR, and it was profitable, of course. And I'm not saying part of what makes Sony's games great is they are deeper. I'm not saying I'm not saying go out and make, like that, this weekend there was the dodgeball game from EA. I'm not saying just make, or even though I enjoyed Destruction All-Stars, I'm not saying make that. Still have the Sony pedigree, the Sony DNA. That's what they're great at. But I'm saying the difference is make it in a commercial genre, right? Don't make Concrete Genie. As great as Concrete Genie probably is, I haven't played it. That's not going to convince somebody at GameStop to go, oh, I could play Concrete Genie, or I can play the new Elder Scrolls. It's not going to work. But if you say, holy shit, there's a brand new fucking awesome Kojima shooter. Guy's never made a straight up shooter before. He made it for $15 million. It's only 4 hours long, but you can only play that on Sony. Come on. Xbox, the rumor is Game Pass has that with Kojima, literally. Forget Me Not says, imagine if Scott Rhodey gets Jim's job. Scott Rhodey is the real goddamn deal. Forget Me Not. The guy is, look, the guy canceled my game. The guy potentially ended my, and he did. I mean, I ended it if I don't want to do it. He, you know, it's not like I'm blackballed or anything, but he effectively put me on the sidelines. And if I want to get back in, I got to get back into my own steam, which is fine. I would have a reason not to support Scott Rhodey, but the fact is, he's the real deal. He's as hardcore as they come. I didn't do it because it was 3 a.m. I'm literally playing a game on Apple Arcade. And I'm like, I got to tell Scott about this. Scott's usually the guy when I find some weird, quirky arcade game on Apple that I will call and say, or I will text and say, dude, you have to play this fucking game, right? He is the real fucking deal. And I think Sony would be lucky to have him sitting in that captain's chair. Upvote Bandit. Oh, wait, hang on a second. Hang on. Let me get to Brian King first. Brian King's, I'll get you upvote. Brian King says, did you see how many signatures are on the petition now? Nearly 700 to fire Jim Ryan. I know it won't make a difference, but, well, 700 is a drop in the bucket, right? Let me tell you something. Bustin' makes me feel good. Let me tell you something. I'm a member. How do I get on the Discord? Oh, not a problem, Alex. You basically just, do you need a link to the Discord? I will put a link to the Discord right now. I'll get to Brian Singh in a second. I'm sorry. Let me do this. I didn't realize you guys didn't have the link. But, okay, here it comes. It's coming right now. 700 signatures on a fanboy petition can hardly be considered. Well, wait a minute. Okay, here's the link to Discord. So there you go, and put yourself in the Last of Us 2 room, and I will bring you on. The point of that, Brian, is, I don't think 700 is a lot. 700 says Phantom X or Phantom on a fanboy petition can hardly even be considered pissing in the ocean. I think that's absolutely correct. I think you're right. It's not a big deal, right? However, the real way to get Jim Ryan out is for is one of two ways. I've said this before. It's very simple. Either one is he very quickly starts losing money, and they say, okay, this isn't working. It's happened before. It happened with Ken Kutaragi. The other option is for him to say, the people at Sony may know very well what the plan is. And they're like, dude, shut the fuck up about firing Jim Ryan. You have a right to say that. The guy knows what he's doing. You just wait till summer when he announces his plan. That's probably what's going to happen. Right? Because even but Sony fanboys don't want to cancel Jim Ryan, but I think deep down inside, here's what I think. You tell me, Brian, if I'm wrong. Because I know you were the guy who made that thread over on NeoGAF. I know you didn't make the petition, but you alerted me to it and a lot of other people. So Jim Ryan is accused right now by a lot of fanboys. They're mad at Jim Ryan right now because they say, look, man, the Sony store thing, you're closing these stores down. We don't like that. I think they don't like that MLB went to Xbox. They don't like that. They don't like it's on Game Pass. But what they really don't like, I think, underneath all that is they don't like the fact that they see Xbox is now a real competitor. And that's fair. That's fair. It did happen on Jim Ryan's watch. But, ultimately, Jim either has a plan or he doesn't. And the people who decide his fate know he has a plan or he doesn't. So either he loses them money, or before he loses them money, someone at Sony that has a voice that is influential on the inside will be able to rise up and say, hey, I hate to do this. I hate to go above the guy's head, but this is what's happening in the industry and he doesn't know. Here's how I know he doesn't know. Because there is no plan. That could get rid of him. But You're not going to get rid of him with a petition, not when Sony's making the kind of money they're making. That's ridiculous. Brian asked, do you think he's just cutting the fat and getting lean before he presses the attack button? I don't know. I don't know anything about that. I don't know what they're waiting on, but I didn't know what they were waiting on before they announced the PS5. But they're not dummies. They're ruling the roost in console sales right now. So they know what they're doing for the most part. The question is this one of those cases where it's like, just wait, just fucking wait? I think so. Elias drops super chat. Thank you, sir. He says, better games. Which first-party Sony game is better than Forza? Which shooter Sony makes is better than Halo and Gears? Killzone is dead. Well, I think, okay, you're not wrong about... I don't know enough about Gran Turismo to say which is better, Forza or... I mean, Forza Horizon is the arcadey one, which I like a lot better than the Forza and the Gran Turismo that is simi, okay? But let's take Halo and Gears. You're absolutely right. Right now, hands down, Sony does not have a shooter to be proud of. You're not wrong. They are making one with Guerrilla, and they are making it with the lead of Rainbow Six Siege. I know they know that's a slot they have to fill. But on the whole, though, Elias, I think most people would argue that consistently, Sony first party pumps out more high-quality games on a consistent basis than Xbox does. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying Xbox does. I loved Gears 5, by the way. That was super fun. I loved Hivebusters Gears add-on, super fun. But Elias, I don't think it's fair for you to paint a picture that they're equal in terms of consistency of quality. Sony, for decades, has consistently put out great Game of the Year titles. You just don't get to deny that. Upvote Bandit, I am getting to you. Hang on. Upvote Bandit says, gamers really need to shut up. There you go. And just enjoy the games and access they now have for these games. Sales figures, sub numbers have no effect on them, and it's pathetic. Well, okay. That's an interesting point. I think it's only okay. Here's what I'll say. Let me give that its due. I think that comment that gamers should just shut up and play, most gamers do. Okay, most gamers do. Just like most people just watch football. But some people watch Sports Zone, and some people listen to podcasts about their very specific college football team, right? Some people like being in the weeds on this stuff. I'm not a console war guy at all. I hate that shit. But what I'll tell you that I love about this particular generation so far is similar to what I loved about 360 versus PS3, which is, as someone who loves the medium of games as a player and a designer at times, I see it's so rare when you see shifts that come about mostly via technology, but sometimes business, that yield shifts in the quality and the types of games we get to play. So that is why it excites me. That is why I am so high on Game Pass. It's not because I'm pro Microsoft or I'm anti Sony. I mean, if I had to pick a side, I would literally pick Sony, which is dumb to pick a side, only because I know people there and I have great affection for people there. But it's not about that for me. It's about Netflix spending $400 million to compete with Knives Out because they have to compete against King Kong versus Godzilla. And no matter how many times Brian says it's not the same, it's the same. For most consumers, it is the same. It is low barrier of entry and it is convenience. That is why Roblox does better than PlayStation. That is why Fortnite, on the whole, is bigger than any individual IP that Sony has, no matter that Last of Us Part 2 is brilliant and is Game of the Year. Because most customers, whatever business you're talking about, unless you're talking about like a business that only thrives on hardcore, like RC model planes or something, most customers will choose convenience, low barrier of entry, above high quality. That's why PCs sell more than Macs, but Macs are better computers as a user experience. They're hands down, okay? So there are... To me, I'm engaged in this particular part of the console war, such as it is, because I know we are going to get better games. We are going to get more competition because of these services. We're going to get games that don't have to be long to justify a $60 price point. So suddenly Kojima can come in and make a 3-hour quirky as fuck weird game that doesn't need to be fat and padded with all this bullshit. It can just be streamlined. It can make games the length of what they need to be. It can expose gamers like me. I would have never played Dirt 5, and now I love Dirt 5, right? It's not because I don't like racing games, but because I didn't know it was an arcadey racing game. I heard it was a semi game. I guarantee you I would have never played Outriders because I'm sick of that Destiny shit, but I'm really enjoying Outriders. So what I'll say to you, UFO Bandit, is you can care about this stuff, and it's not a personal console war thing. The reason I care about it is because we are literally talking about improving the industry. Saneu.com, can you call in? Yes, you don't even have to ask. Just call in, drag your name on the Discord into the Last of Us 2 chat room, and I will bring you on. Not a problem, pal. Six, my good buddy Six, who just made me jealous last night because he has a Melissa Benoist Supergirl action figure. He says, Jaffe, I think a part of your stance is your taste. You always like to pop into games that look like they might be cool, play them for an hour, and move on. None of my friends play like that. Well, they will. Your friends don't play like that because they've spent $60 and they are invested. It's the same reason if you buy a movie ticket, you won't. Most people don't walk out of movies. I walk out of movies all the time. Okay, but if your friends, I guarantee you, and tell me if I'm wrong about this, Six. If you tell your friends, dude, you have to go watch Supergirl. You and I like Supergirl. We know it's not a great show, but we like it because Melissa Benoist is super fucking hot. She's my girlfriend, not yours. Fuck you. And we like it because it's just very comic booky, right? I haven't seen Superman Lois here. It's great, but you know what I'm saying. But if you told your friends that and they watched 1 or 2 episodes, they're not going to be like, nope, I'm going to watch the whole thing. But when you are on a subscription-based service, a lot of people duck in and out. One of the reasons Netflix cancels how many shows they cancel when you think they are successful, a series, is because they have a metric that says, yeah, a lot of people watched the first episode, but how many people were into the second episode? There's like a drop-off, a degradation. And if that degradation doesn't go above a certain number, they kill it after season 2 because they're going, okay, people were interested, but the show couldn't sustain. So I hear what you're saying about your friends who don't game that way. They will soon. They absolutely will soon. Elias drops super chat. He says, if PlayStation makes a Game Pass, we all win. I agree. I don't want to pay $70 for a game, and that's why this gen, I will only buy a PS5 years from now. We all win. The gamers win because the game designs are going to be better. Can you imagine if Sony does this right and they say we have to compete with Game Pass, Elias, and they basically jump in and they say, Neil Druckmann, we need a 2-hour game from you. We know you're no longer directing because you're vice president or whatever, but can you give us something for 2 hours? Corey Barlog, we know you want to make a brand new IP. Any of them, Corey or the guys at Insomniac, what a great way for these stellar superstar teams to test out IP. Corey's like, the rumor is, I don't know. I do know, but I'm not saying anything. But no, I don't know. The point is, the rumor is, this is on record. People know this. Corey's supposed to be dabbling with a space game. That's what people think, okay? Let's assume there's truth to that. Corey's dabbling with a space game. Well, okay, so what if Sony said, look, we can't gamble anymore at $200 million budgets. It's too risky. Let's launch all new IPs, almost like Disney Plus is doing with Falcon and Winter Soldier or WandaVision. I don't think before WandaVision, Sony would or Disney would have ever considered giving Wanda and Vision a movie. Now they will. But the cost to make WandaVision was nowhere near the cost to make Avengers Endgame, or even probably Spider-Man, whatever the new one is, Can't Go Home or whatever. So I actually think that we absolutely all win because we're going to get better games. And I think only PlayStation has shown historically that they are able to sort of hit gamers with those quality of games. I'm going to bring in a couple of phone calls real quick. 1 second. This is Cannibal Lecter or Cannibal Lecter. One moment. I got to put myself in there. Hang on. All right. Are you there?
Hello.
Hey, how are you, man?
Good. How are you?
Oh, wait. Are you guys getting... Okay, let me make sure are you guys getting an echo? Can you hear Cannibal pretty well? Pretty good? I am not confirming that, Alexis, you moron. Come on now. Okay, can you say something, Cannibal?
One, two, three, 1, 2, 3.
Okay, let me know if there's an echo. If there is, I'll use headphones. Okay, what do you want to talk about? What's up, man?
All right. So, putting aside will Sony do Game Pass? The question is, they already do. There is PS Now. It's
Correct.
not as successful. Now, the main thing I understand why Microsoft is doing Game Pass now. One of the interesting things that I was reading is that they are heavily investing in low latency server technology.
Okay.
And the reason they're doing that is for, we know, military purposes. They want to, how to say it, stream their Office and Windows to
Hmm.
any of the device. So that is clear. They want the service low latency. It makes sense. Business-wise, perfect. Phil Spencer is winning. I guess the fear from the gamer side that is coming for Game Pass is, for Game Pass to be successful, it needs to hit critical mass. Now, how does it hit critical mass? It needs to go xCloud, which is streaming. Agree?
No, I don't agree. I absolutely agree that when Game Pass, when streaming for people who can do it is a great experience. I can do it, it's a great experience. But Microsoft is not moronic. They know that xCloud is not going to be the way of the future for the next handful of years. So I think critical mass
Yeah,
for them, I want to say, I think they're at 18 million right now. I forget the number that Eurogamer sussed out and said. And there's a great
50
article.
million.
Okay, so they will
50
they
million.
will easily get to 50 million. They are almost halfway to
No,
50 million, and that will be a place where they're saying we're really fucking successful, and it's only going to go up
yeah,
from there because slowly over time, and starting this year, Phil Spencer said they're going to put Game Pass on smart TVs. You don't even need a console or a
yes,
computer. So ultimately, yeah,
yes,
more and more, just like you saw Blu-ray give way to digital download rentals of movies and then streaming movies, you're seeing physical already give way to digital download. And now you're seeing that give way to subscription services, but you're going to see it give way to streaming, but it doesn't happen overnight. But,
mm,
for whatever reason, they're in the market. They're in the market, and it's great for gamers.
no, I agree. There will be many amazing, technical achievements done, great game design. Now, the fear I think that is coming from is when it starts hitting critical mass through streaming. I think the percentage of mobile users on Netflix or Disney Plus is usually around 33%. So
Okay.
33% of the streamers of any of the streaming services is mobile.
Okay.
Now, that is a big market, right? So if that is the case, in the future, um, game design needs to be accommodate a smaller screen, a mobile device. So imagine trying to have a Bethesda MMO, RPG that has a lot of text in mobile. It will be very hard to read. So that design will be, has to readjust for streaming on a smaller mobile device.
I
Plus,
mean, I don't,
because
I think that's making an assumption that, I mean, I'm not, okay.
no, it has to,
Well, no, it
because
does not. It does not.
you're a game designer. You're an amazing
Absolutely,
game designer.
it absolutely does not have to. It has to in some cases, but the idea that that is going to be the standard for every game made, I don't think that makes any
But
sense. Do I think when games start streaming and they will stream on your phone and your TV and your tablet and your console? Yes, there will be companies out there that say, hey, let's make something that works great on everything. But there will also be companies that say, let's make something that's, for the big screens. There's no reason to assume that there's not a market for that. Why would they not serve that market?
they will. But also on top of it, because streaming is much more successful with, it will be much more successful, as you stated, with games like Roblox and Fortnite. The current generation that is coming up is now being conditioned for microtransactions.
Well, okay,
So
yeah,
current,
yeah, okay.
you agree to that.
No,
So what
no,
what ends
no.
up gonna happen is, in the future,
Yeah.
um, the most successful games on streaming services is gonna end up being service-based games, right?
No.
Okay.
I will answer that. Thank you for your call. Do me a favor though, real quick, and then I will respond to that, and then I'll bring on someone else. But I do want to respond to that point. Well, before you go, say that's a bingo.
That's a bingo.
Oh, come on. You know who you sound like, right?
Who?
You sound like the guy from the Tarantino movies, from Django Unchained, and what's his name, Christoph Waltz.
Oh,
you sound just like that guy. All right, man. Talk to you soon. Thank you, sir.
Oh, wunderbar.
There you go. Okay, let me respond to this guy. I mean, because I see it in the chat as well. Which is people. All I can tell you is this. There's got to be a psychological term for this, right? Where I've never seen it amplified in such a way, but this idea that you're always looking for something else to criticize when you really should just say, you know where I've seen it? I'll tell you where I've seen it. I've seen it in that very viral cartoon where it was about racism in America, and it was about Kaepernick kneeling. I'm not going to get political. I'm just this is where I see it. I'm not saying that PlayStation anti-Game Pass people are white supremacists, but I'm saying that the analogy works. Just hang with me. So in it, there was a black athlete kneeling, and a white guy's like, that makes me uncomfortable. That's disrespectful. Don't do it. So then the next panel was a black guy protesting, and he's like, that makes me uncomfortable. Don't do it. So then the next one, it was a black guy doing something else. I forget what that one was. And finally, in the fourth panel, tragically, the black guy's dead because he's been shot. And the white guy's like, okay, that's acceptable, right? Basically, what they're saying is they don't want it, and I will find any excuse I can to amplify or to buttress up my argument, okay? The idea that Game Pass and sub-services will bring about the subscription model, okay, or microtransactions, is one that you hear consistently from people who hate Game Pass. And if that happens, then it probably won't be successful. Or if it is successful, it means gamers have embraced it. But all I can tell you is I have had Game Pass for a good long time, and I have never felt like I'm being hit with I've never been asked to have a microtransaction. I've never been asked to have to subscribe to anything on Game Pass. It's not a bad analogy, Creary. It's an unfortunate analogy. It's kind of a politically vulgar analogy, but it's an accurate analogy. But yeah, this idea that the sky is falling because service-based games will lead to microtransactions. Based on what? What evidence do you have of that? And more importantly, if that happens, then cancel it. I would agree with you. If suddenly I log into, it's kind of like, remember Ready Player One, where IOI wanted to take control of the Oasis, and the guy's like, we've done research that says we can fill the screen with 80% ads and people won't get sick. Well, when Game Pass becomes IOI under the Oasis under IOI, I'm sure we'll just cancel it and walk away. But that's not happening right now. And if it does happen, we'll move on. So I don't buy that. And if it does happen to that guy's call, we'll find another service that'll rise up and give gamers what they do want. Papa Cheeks, come on in, baby. What's going on?
What's going on, man?
Well, I'm doing a little stream and I'm drinking a Diet Coke. What are you wearing?
Flannel.
Nice. Nice.
The Al Borland warehouse.
Exactly.
Oh, let's go.
What's up? What do you want to talk about?
Well, I actually want to ask you a question in terms of, I know you're a big fan of Game Pass.
Yep.
I am not, but I've signed up for it 3 times. I have a PC, PS5. My roommate has a Switch.
Okay.
And I've basically gone 2 gens without an Xbox because I was not a big fan of the past gen, and the last one I had was a 360.
Okay.
But I still love the old school Microsoft software from like the original Xbox to like the first couple years of 360. So like to me, that's when they were like just kind of firing on all cylinders and just signing whatever. They're like, screw it, get this game by Epic on here, Gears, get Halo, whatever. And they were kind of like doing whatever. But I get what they're trying to do with Game Pass, and I see that it's on a really successful trajectory in terms of like their numbers. What I found was really interesting that I don't know if you've read about it was I think you might have brought it up on your stream about like that people are playing more games or experiencing more games because the variety that's on Game Pass. You've got indie, you got a bunch of different stuff. Right?
They're playing 40% more than non-Game Pass gamers, and they are experimenting and playing different games. I think it was like 60% more. If you have a Game Pass, and that is, I have found that to be true in my own personal experience as well.
And they're buying more, from my understanding.
Yeah,
like the buying habits have changed for people. Yeah, which is good. I think Game Pass is 100% good for the industry. I think my issue in terms of just why I don't like it, I disagree when you think that just PlayStation fans like hate it, the Game Pass. I don't hate it. I think my issue is I've had a bad experience with it. So until they like fix the experience that I've had with it,
what was your bad experience?
Well, I mean, you play it. Do you play it mostly on the PC?
I did it first because I didn't have an X. Once I've gotten an X, I never played on PC anymore. But I spent a year and a half with it exclusively on PC, and I loved it.
See, I was like I'm kind of the opposite, and all of the people that I know that have a Series X have gaming PCs. They don't touch their gaming PCs now. Okay. And the reason is, and the big reason is the libraries are not 1-to-1 ratio.
They're not. That's why I got an Xbox X, because the library on the console is,
it's way better.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably 40% more games, and you get them a little bit faster on console. Obviously, there was EA Play. Outriders is not on PC, Xbox Game Pass, but it is on Xbox X. And also, there's one other...
BC titles, right? You've got like all that stuff too that you have access to.
Yeah, so but it's still great, and you do have some games on PC that you don't get on console yet. Like, I don't think Microsoft Flight Sim, which is like a 10 out of 10 rated game by a lot of critics, you can't play that on console yet. You can't play that Crusader Kings 3 yet. But most games, though, you're right, do favor the console side. Yes, that's correct.
And I think the biggest issue I have with I'm going to get to my main point is the whole you brought it up with like there's more people playing different type of games. There's a study I'll have to bring it up and put it either in the Discord or in your chat that shows that because more people are trying different games because their gaming habits are changing, the percentage of people that actually complete the games is way lower.
Yeah, probably true.
Because they're playing more, and to me, I think that's a huge issue.
Okay, I'm going to hang up, but I'm going to answer that right quick. All right, Papa, thank you so much for calling, buddy. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, man. Let me speak to that really quickly because that's a very important point. If you didn't kind of get what he was saying, I haven't seen this stat, but it wouldn't surprise me. He's saying that if you play on Game Pass, your tendency to complete a game is much lower than if you play on a game you've purchased. Similar to I played Assassin's Creed Valhalla on Luna, which is a streamer, but it's a subscription service, and I didn't come close to finishing that. I honestly think that is for the best, for one main reason. Gamers almost have Stockholm syndrome, and you can't blame them because it's been this way since the dawn of fucking the industry. Okay, but in no other artistic creative medium would it be acceptable to consistently put out products, to let alone award them with Game of the Year awards, that the vast majority of people don't finish. Can you imagine if Godzilla King Kong comes out and no one finishes it? If Parasite comes out, or whatever won the Oscar last year, or Avengers Endgame comes out and people are like, yeah, I watched the part where, Black Widow falls off the mountain. I'm good. I'm going to go watch something else. Right. But in video games, it's acceptable that 60% completion rate is a good number. The reason that is looked at and lauded is because the business model hurts the art form. It is not balanced. This brings things into balance. This brings the force into balance because now, look, I'll give you a great example. We on the members of Gavin Games were playing It Takes Two recently, okay? I love that game. It is phenomenal. And one of the things the director has said is that I want to make a game that a lot of people finish, okay? Well, lo and behold, I don't know how long the game is. I think we're almost done with it, but every level is different. Every level is fresh. Every level is interesting and unique. And I'm not stopping. I'm continuing because it's engaging my brain. Most people don't want to grind and play the same thing over and over and over with a little variant. They don't. They just don't. Okay? And so subscription services that will allow people, like, you know what I finished recently? I finished Hivebusters recently because it was 5 hours. It got on the stage. It told a cool story. I got off. I didn't get it. Well, I got off and it got off the stage. This is good. This is a good thing, right? But people don't get it because they've been so conditioned to think long is better. Long is sometimes better, but in most single player story-based games, it wears out its welcome for most people 5, 6, 8 hours in. So it's actually a good fucking thing. Raji says achievements are a decent incentive to finish games. The natural progression of that is to give people tangible rewards. You shouldn't do that, though. Do you understand how that's broken? Do you understand how conditioned you've become? That would be like you going to see Hamilton on Broadway, and every 40 minutes an usher comes to the aisle and says, "If you don't leave, I'll stamp your card, and after 12 stamps, you get a free hat." I mean, why are you accepting of this? Shouldn't you be going, I don't want to have an incentive to finish other than I want to finish. Because it's really fucking good. I just don't understand. So that's my response. That's my response. Let me go to the chat real quick, and then I'll bring in some more phone calls. There was one guy who said, Console Gaming says, Jaffe, will you please highlight the fact that Game Pass and Netflix are not comparable? I think they are, but hang on. You can't purchase on Netflix. Game Pass isn't trying to destroy ownership, just being another option. Well, okay, they are comparable in some ways. Brian King will tell you they are not, but he and I respectfully disagree with each other. But yes, you can buy. But don't think for a moment Game Pass doesn't assume that the vast majority of people are not buying. I've been playing Monster Train religiously for the last 4 months, and I love it. I will not buy it because I've gotten bored of it now. Right? Will some people buy their games? Sure. But movie ownership is going down just like game ownership is going to go down. No one, your average person doesn't need to own a game. They don't care. If the average consumer cared about owning a game, they wouldn't be buying Madden and Call of Duty every year because what they already own would be acceptable. They want the new, they want the different, they want to get something, consume it, and move on with their fucking lives. Again, I'm not saying that you don't. I respect that. Just like I respect record collectors and hardcore music aficionados who will always want to listen on vinyl, right? They will always want to subscribe if they subscribe to a service, to Jay-Z's, what was it called? The one that Tidal, because I guess the music quality is better. But most people, they don't consume this stuff that way. Raji says, I'm a sucker for trophies. I won't lie. And you're right. If not for achievements, I wouldn't have finished 90% of the games I finished. Right? Think about that. Think about that. Yeah, console, I'm not saying you're wrong. Game Pass may have an inadvertent nice cherry on top, which is more people who play do purchase. But I don't think Game Pass is in business because they think this is just a shortcut or a way to trick people into purchasing. I think that's a nice side effect. Scythe dev team, he's right. He says music is even crazier. No one wants to own music. They want to just stream it for free. My kids haven't bought a single or an album on iTunes in a decade. It doesn't occur to them. They want Spotify every month. They want me to pay for Spotify every month. But they haven't come to me and said, Dad, there's a new Taylor Swift album. Can I have, $14? They're just like, hey, can you please keep paying the $9.99 for Spotify every month, right? So yeah, I mean, it's just, but if we were in a musical aficionado chat, people would be saying it's the end of the world. And it probably is for them. And that doesn't mean I'm not sympathetic, but you don't want them talking about the future of the business, assuming what they're going to be talking about is going to be valid because they're coming from a pure, selfish, personal, emotional place. Shay says it's happening to me right now with Far Cry. You're only playing because you want the platinum. Think about how absurd it is. I'm not saying I don't like trophies and achievements. I do. I even like them more on Xbox because Xbox Series X has it really integrated. They may have been doing this for years, but I'm not a big Xbox guy. Where every time I log in, it's like, hey, you've got 20 more points. Do you want to apply them towards this thing? And then it's like, hey, go to this list of shit you can get if you get so many points. I mean, I've never seen PlayStation do that, but still, it's still not my, it's still not my main reason to game. Caveman says Spotify isn't great for the artist. How will Game Pass be for devs? I don't care. And you shouldn't care. Look, it's business, right? I guarantee you if Spotify drives musicians out of business, then Spotify will go out of business, okay? Are musicians living the same quality of high life they used to live back in the 70s and 80s? When it was going into Tower Records and buying albums and cassettes and singles? No. At least most of them aren't. But that's not my problem. They're still making music, and the ones that can't afford to make music, it's a hobby. I mean, it's not, why do you care though? Fada says, I care. What do you care about? I mean, it's not that I don't care about devs. CD Supreme says, CD Supreme says, I don't care about devs. I care about them as fellow human beings, of course. But it's not my job to look after their business. I'm trying to look after my own fucking business. And the singers and songwriters that adapt will thrive. Look at Taylor Swift. Some of these names I'm going to drop on you, I only know because I have kids. Look at Chloe Moriando. Look at Cavetown. These are 1 or 2 man shops running their businesses on YouTube and Spotify. And I drove my kids to LA about a year ago with their friends to see Chloe Moriando, who's like 16, and she plays a fucking ukulele. And she packed a small club in LA. She sold all of her own merch. She sold CDs. She has a very thriving YouTube channel. She's controlling her destiny. You just don't have it at the same scope necessarily that other artists used to have back in the day, but why is that a problem? All right, let me bring in Face Pines real quick, and then I'll bring in Zach. Face Pines, what's up? Do not do Gollum. I don't want to hear Gollum today. Go.
It's funny you say that because
I
was calling to prove that I am Gollum because
okay, goodbye,
Mo in the chat.
Okay, anything else, Face Pines, or that was the gist?
I also want to ask, when is the God of War Secrets video coming out?
God of War Ragnarok?
No, the God of War 10 Secrets.
I am editing it right now. I actually have the thumbnail done. Somebody in the stream helped me with the thumbnail. I would say in the next 2 weeks.
Nice.
Thank you, sir. And by the way, I love Gollum. I'm just going to be honest with you. Whenever you call in and do Gollum, do you know what happens?
The viewership goes down?
The viewership plummets. It plummets like Jim Ryan's favorability rating. But I love it.
Boy.
I think it's a good impression. I think it's good stuff. And don't stop doing it, but you just can't do it here, sir. But call back anytime. We love you.
Thanks.
All right, buddy. Call back soon. Good old Face Pines. Okay, this is Zach Gamer. Zach, of course, from Bayside High with his friends Kelly Kapowski and Screech. What's up, Zach? Zach, Zachariah, okay, you're going off. Are you there? Okay, we're going to bring in King David God something. I don't know. King David, what's up, pal?
Yes, sir.
How are you?
I'm fine, sir.
Good.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
I played the original God of War and God of War.
I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Twisted Metal.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's it?
So, I wanted to talk about the Game Pass thing.
Okay, go.
No, I'm just going to talk to you as a gamer. I'm not going to stay here and just say, oh, it's a bad thing just because I believe it has its place in the gaming industry.
Okay.
I think it's a good thing for indie developers because I'm not ready to spend $30 every time for every single indie. You understand?
I do
I think it's a
understand.
good thing for smaller games. But the thing is, it's not that I hate rental services. It's just that it feels like they take every single type of control from me.
Give me an example.
For example, let's say Hellblade comes out and it's on Game Pass.
Yep.
No, fuck that. Let's say God of War comes out and it's on PS Now.
Okay.
Let's say the development was rough, okay? And the game came out broken.
Okay.
It came out in the service, it came out broken. But can I complain?
Sure.
No, I got 800 other. No, I have 800 other games to play, and I'm only paying $15 a month.
What do you? But what?
I'm
why
not
does that?
just-
Well, wait a minute. I don't understand.
What I'm trying to say.
Well, hang on. I want to make sure I understand because
No,
maybe,
what?
maybe you're being
Okay.
clear. But I mean, this weekend, for example, Outriders came out. It's primarily being played on Xbox Game Pass, and people were giving death threats to Square. People certainly felt okay complaining.
No, I saw the numbers from Square. I saw the numbers that came out. It was actually the numbers that came out for Outriders was actually 100K players concurrent on Steam. They didn't give the Game Pass numbers.
No, but we know though that the numbers on PlayStation 4 and 5 were 80% of the sales went to PlayStation 4 and 5, right? And we know that a lot of those other ones went to Steam because most people are playing it on Xbox on Game Pass. So a lot of people are playing it on Game Pass on Xbox. They're not buying it, is my point. And there were a lot of people complaining about it.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm.
But what? So why do you think you can't complain?
I know what you...
I mean, I complain all the time. Look, when Disney Plus launched the finale of WandaVision, I couldn't watch it that night because there were too many people hitting the service. I complained. I mean, ultimately, I'm still a subscriber. But I mean, where do you? I think there's a disconnect. But what? Give me another example because that one's not working for me. Like you say, they have too much control.
What I'm trying, I'm just. Sorry, I'm having connection problems here.
All right, call back. Figure it out. Call back. We'll talk to you soon. Give us a shout back,
Right.
David. All right. Zach Gamer, are you there, sir? Your last chance, Zachariah. I'll keep you the mic open if you want to pop in. I'll look at the chat right now. He's worried about game quality being... Oh, there you go. Zach, you there?
Hello?
I can hear... Yeah, you got to turn your volume up a little bit. And you're on. What's up, Ben?
Listen, David.
Yes.
I know you for PlayStation 2.
No idea what you're saying. All right. I call back if you need to, but I kicked you off. We can't hear you. Game Pass is meant for game devs to keep full ownership, says Bacon, and cutting out the pre-owned market. This is bad for the consumer. Yeah, upvote, call in. I mean, again, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's like, business is saying at Bacon, basically. I mean, is Stranger Things bad for the consumer? Is, there's a lot of...
No. I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
Well, no,
I actually do agree with you when you talk about service.
Hang on, man. Let me finish this thought. King David, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to this guy in the chat right now. there's a lot of things that we have gotten. The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, House of Cards, Stranger Things, weird documentaries that you would not see if Amazon Prime didn't fund them. I'm very grateful, Bacon, that I've had those pieces of entertainment in my life versus if somebody said you get those but you never own them, which I think is a total psychological reason. It's, that you care. What do you care? What do you care if you own Stranger Things? Well, then I can watch it whenever you want. Who are you? Who's in the landscape of so much media to consume? Who is going back and watching the same goddamn thing? I mean, yeah, there are a couple of shows. I will watch West Wing probably 20 times before I die. The whole fucking thing, because I adore it. But the number of people that are going to go back and watch Stranger Things season 2, and they took it away from me. Yeah, but you got it, right? If you had to make a choice between losing 80% of the content that streaming has granted consumers, linear media, not games at the moment, or you get rid of that 80%, but there's 20% and you own it. I'm not saying, like Chris in the chat, there aren't people that do reconsume over and over, but the majority of people don't behave that way. And here's how I know the majority of people don't behave that way. Because it's very hard to go out into a store and buy DVDs or Blu-rays. It's very hard to find a record store that's still open. If people cared in a large degree, those stores would still be open. I'm not saying you're bad for caring. I'm saying you're in the minority for caring. 83% of physical copies, says console, sold on PlayStation, which is 20% of total game sales on average. So 1 million copies, 165. Wait, what? I'll read that in a minute. I need to understand that. I'll come back to that. Okay. Okay, let me go back. Let me give King David one more try. All right, go King David. What's up? Real quick.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's
I
right. Go,
really
go, go,
having
go, 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 go,
connection
go, go,
issues.
go. I don't
Yeah.
care.
So okay. So what I was trying to say is, when it comes to what is making me scared is, I know, like, okay, what is scaring me is publishers and their
Okay.
greediness. Companies like EA, companies like Activision, like, we know how greedy they are. And if releasing a game $60 broken is nothing for them, what is it? If they release, oh sorry, my English is not perfect.
That's
If
okay.
they release a game in a service and it's broken, can we really complain? Like,
Why?
really? Because no, let me explain what I'm trying to say. We can decide to, let's say, boycott a certain game just because, for example, look at what happened to Cyberpunk.
Yeah, it got
The
pulled off the
game,
stores.
yeah.
Okay, I disconnected. Let me just address that, King David. I apologize. It's hard to listen to that because I'm not quite sure what you're saying, but I'm going to try. And I got to make sure the audience isn't losing their shit because they get bored fast, and I respect that as well. But I do respect your question. Let me try to address it. There are plenty of examples. The reason you know that companies care just as much if a subscription show catches on as they care if a game catches on that you paid $60 for is because things get canceled on subscription all the time. The companies fund things that keep people subscribing. So if EA releases a buggy piece of shit and they do it on a consistent basis, well, the reason EA Play signed with Game Pass is it's beneficial to them both. If Game Pass starts to see that this is a business partner that makes us look bad and we're paying them a lot of money and they're not driving subscriptions for us, we'll cut them loose. So of course they're invested in making sure that you're happy with your experience. I don't understand why you would assume that they're not. Shaggy Sweetness. In fact, the only place to play Cyberpunk that you brought up well, the first month or so was on Stadia, which was not subscription, but it was streaming. This is Shaggy. What's up, man?
Yo, what's going on?
Not much. How you doing?
I'm just gonna go at it. My problems with my problems with Game Pass because I don't like what it's doing, ownership and stuff like that.
Okay.
But the main thing is there's two things. You say that it's good for trying new games and stuff like that. Whatever happened to demos? Demos were free. We could play demos. We could try new games through demos without having to pay for a service. But second, I'm okay with Game Pass and PS Now and all that being optional, like as just a separate option. But we know that's not where it's going to go. We know they
whoa, hang
control.
on a second. Why is it not going to go there?
Because publishers, game dev, it's all that, they want total control. They don't want resale of games. They don't want trading in of games. They don't want to allow consumers those freedoms because it affects their bottom line.
Do you think that Sony had hoped that the Move controllers would have been successful?
Well, yeah, I guess they would.
Do you think Sony had hoped that 3D televisions would have been successful?
I mean, are we renting those? Are we paying services fees for?
No, but what I'm saying is this idea that the companies drive the decision making. The companies put out their wares, and you either consume them, and in doing so, communicate to them, we like this, or you ignore them and they stop doing it. So the idea that you are just a passive victim is ridiculous. If people didn't like Game Pass, they wouldn't subscribe to Game Pass. And then Microsoft would say, well, that's not working. Let's try something else. People love the Wii. They didn't love the Wii U. So Nintendo said, okay, that's not working. I'm sure Nintendo wished the Wii U would have won and done well. But it didn't. So I guess I don't agree with you that just because the publisher wants it to happen, it's going to happen.
Well, I mean, you know how people are. They're like, oh, I wish I would have did things differently after it already happened. And we know that they want more control over resales. They don't want trading. They don't want people.
There's no doubt. No doubt it benefits the publishers. Absolutely. But you know what else benefits the publishers? Selling every first party game for $250. But they can't do it because the customer won't pay it. You're not
ridiculous.
You're not a prisoner. You are the one in control. You're not a victim.
But I mean, in the future, I'm not. Right now, it's okay as an option.
No. I mean, now and in the future. Even these people online saying, "Oh, it's going to bring down the quality of games." Well, then stop subscribing to it, and they'll either have to raise their quality or they'll go out of business. I mean, you guys.
And they say we're going to stop printing physical copies of games because we have Game Pass now. What is that going to do to people who have a physical copy of games?
What is that going to do to people who do what?
Who prefer a physical copy of games of being able to own their product, to resell, trade.
There is no doubt that just like movies, just like music, you're still going to see physical ownership, but it's going to drop dramatically, A, because more people coming up, the younger generation doesn't care, and B, because it just won't be lucrative for most companies to do it. But yeah, absolutely. That's going to make those, and again, I'm not saying I don't sympathize personally. I understand there are people who don't like that. But what I'm saying is that, the majority don't care. They just want new content. They want it with a low barrier of entry. They want it as close to possible as free as they can get it or perceive it to be free. And they're happy. You're on the fringe and people like you. And it's not a bad thing. I'm not criticizing you, but you're a hardcore aficionado. And for the longest time, and I get why it's a shock to the system, because for the longest time, the game industry was primarily about serving you because no one else was playing. And now the game industry is starting to realize, with the success of things like Rocket League and Fortnite and Call of Duty multiplayer and back in the day Guitar Hero and PUBG and all this shit, that the hardcore gamer is not the only game in town, and mobile games doing brilliantly. And so we don't have to make every decision for them. You guys are going to start getting treated like hardcore record fans and hardcore cinephiles, which is, you're a market, you deserve to be respected, you deserve to be served, but you're not driving the decisions anymore. And that sucks. But that's how it works in every entertainment medium once it gets popular.
I hate to see the day that happened because I like ownership of something.
I
like
appreciate it. I
you know,
appreciate it. I do personally appreciate it, man. I really do.
Which that brings me to another question I asked earlier in your chat. What does the work on your previous game where you chose to make Drawn to Death internet online only and no physical copies, what does that push you in towards pushing these services like Game Pass and stuff like that, since you didn't have to worry about that for that game? And, you know, there's some people out there I'm sure who loved it, but they can't play it now because they can't connect to the server that
they wouldn't
authenticates it.
But they wouldn't have been able to play it to begin with because I would have never gotten a green light for that game for the budget it was for a $60 product or a physical product. So, I mean, again, Sony came to me and said, I remember going to them and I said, hey, I'd like to do the single player version of Drawn to Death first. I think it's stronger. And they said, we would love to do a single player if the multiplayer catches on, but right now we need a service-based game like this. Can you do that? And I said, yes, of course. Obviously, it didn't do well, but that's why it was funded by them. So the
You think that hurt it?
Yeah, because I would have been better at, but not because it was service-based, but because I'm better at making single-player games than multiplayer hardcore shooters. But ultimately, though, these games exist because these channels, these subscription channels or whatever, they need to fill a need in the business plan of these companies. So you can say, oh, it sucks you can't play Drawn to Death now. Doesn't that change your mind? No, because you wouldn't have been able to play it at all. Right? You know, there would be no Stranger Things probably, or if there was, that would be on ABC and it would be watered down. It's, you know.
Well, I like that it's an option among multiple options, but if it's the only option, that's where I'm going to have a major problem with it.
I got it. Thanks, Shaggy. I appreciate it, buddy, as always. Thanks for the
No
call.
problem.
I get, like I said, I'll say this one last time. I get that you have a problem with it, and a lot of you guys have a problem with it. I appreciate it personally. But, you know, I remember days where I used to work with a guy at Sony, was a hardcore record guy. He still is. He still buys vinyl, goes to every live show he can when there's not a pandemic. The guy's nuts about music and new music and all that stuff. He hated seeing the death of record stores. But no one cares. I care about him as my friend, but the business doesn't care. And it's not a monopoly. Somebody in the chat, John Moore, says, then that's a monopoly. No, it is not a monopoly. That's like saying that you know, a monopoly would be if only one company owns the infrastructure to stream games or movies. But this is just a way to get people movies. It's a business model. It's not saying it would be a monopoly if Xbox made it so Sony can't have PlayStation Now. You may not care to save Calling All Cars on your PS3, but we do, says Peapod. I get it. You guys are not hearing. I'm not saying I don't care. I'm not saying I don't respect that you care. I'm telling you something different. Can't you separate the two? I'm going to move on, but all I'm saying is I get you care. I get it. I respect that, just like I respect there are hardcore record people that care. But that's not who drives the business. And there are people, like Caveman says, to be fair, they're still record stores, they're more boutique. There are people who will serve you guys. Right now, there's one guy, I follow him on Twitter, he follows me. What's the guy who makes the physical games from a lot of digital? He just put out a Scott Pilgrim hardcore, what is that, limited run games or whatever? You will see more of that because businesses always pop up and get created to serve a customer base. The difference is you're not going to be the customer base, the main one that drives the engine anymore. Yes, upvote, call, I'm here. That's all I'm saying. Scythe says advancements in tech in just 2 or 3 years is comparable to today, to decades of progress a century ago. That's true. Things are moving so fast, society's constantly advancing. Yeah, and you no longer, all you have to do is see kids, you know, not because, oh, have kids and you'll see, but have kids and you will see limited run games. Yeah, you will see how outdated and how quick the things you love get replaced. right? My kids don't watch movies. My kids don't buy records. My kids don't buy games. Never anymore. Do you know if you pay upfront for a year, you don't have to pay monthly? Maria, I don't know what you're asking. Are you asking me that? Let me bring in good Sir Uncle Fuzznuts. Fuzznuts, what's up, pal?
Yeah, just funny little anecdote to kind of go along with exactly your point. I'm 35 years old, and I have a giant collection of old NES games, SNES, everything, all the old PlayStations, N64, you name it, I had it all, and I've held on to them for forever just because I'm the type of guy where I'm like, well, I might want to play that one day, just like how you're talking about. And recently, in the past like couple weeks, I actually went through and I'm like, you know what? I'm actually never going to play any of these. And I threw pretty much my entire collection up on eBay, and I've just been selling things piecemeal. And it feels good to like let it go and just be like, I don't need to hold on to this shit. If I really want to play any of this, I can just go emulate any of this. Like, there's no reason to have a physical box. Like, I don't have a display case showing my great collection. I'm just holding on to it to collect dust for what? For no reason.
I mean,
right?
and that's a personal thing. I mean, I happen to be exactly like you. I sold all my games at a garage sale. I was stunned how much money I made. I made like $400 off Klonoa, one game, right? But that said, though, there are people that want to collect. I respect that. They like having them on the shelf. They like the collection. They like the ownership. I get it. I'm not saying they're dumb or they're wrong. I'm just saying they don't represent the majority.
No, I'm not saying they're dumb or wrong either, but I think what I'm saying is it may come with an age. Like I said, I'm 35. I think a lot of the people that listen to you or watch you might be in their 20s-ish or a lot younger, and they might still want to hold on to all their stuff. But I think once you get older, you go, oh, God, I don't care about this shit. Like, let me just play what I want. Like, the fact, if I can just stream everything ever for the rest of my gaming life, that would be so much better. So, anyway.
Just, all right. Fuzznuts, thanks, man. And thank you so much for signing up, man. I will, you're on the list for the God of War gift. I'm getting them tonight.
Sounds good,
so
brother.
I appreciate it, bud. Talk to you soon.
Love it. Later. Bye.
I mean, again, I get it, and what I'll say about what he just said about the age, younger kids don't give a fuck about owning, and older people probably on the whole don't. I think maybe there is that sort of sweet spot in the middle there of maybe 20 or something. Maria, you're saying if you pay monthly, you don't get a 5% discount. Are you talking about Game Pass? Heath Nation, yes, you can absolutely send me an ad. I would love it. Absolutely. Valentin says, what's up, Jaffe? How are you, sir? Thank you for the super chat. He says, good conversation. I think so too. It's been fun. I just jumped in. Can you make the live stream available later for those of us who missed it? Yes, it is always available unless something goes wrong. So, in fact, we had a good conversation Saturday about, is Square Enix getting too much shit from gamers, or is it right to be furious at them for Outriders? And the day before that, we had a pretty good conversation about MLB going to Game Pass. So all of those are up right now on the channel. Hello, Retro Queen. Retro Queen, she says, let's talk about game job application process. Why so many companies only allow 1 megabyte for an application? How can work be shown if we can't have pictures or portfolios? I've never heard of that. The only thing I can imagine they mean is maybe they want to just kind of get an idea first before going through a portfolio of kind of what you are. But I don't remember we ever had that requirement, but I wouldn't know. I would think most applications I see are like, hey, here's my website. If you want to see my game design or whatever, if you want to see my portfolio, what have you. Hello, Hunter. Good to see you. Right now, says Neo Hagen, Xbox have the nonstop injection of Microsoft billions on the division to keep coming with games and studios. What will happen when Nadella stops putting money? Is he the CEO? I don't know. I mean, again, I think what's weird about this is a lot of people, and I'm not saying you're doing this, Neo Hagen, but a lot of people act like if you join a subscription service, you're giving away your firstborn. It's like you join it for a month, or worst case, like we were just talking about, who was that? Maria was asking, you join it for a year. And then you're done. It's like, it doesn't serve me anymore, right? So you're just like, all right, fine, not a problem. If Xbox stops getting an influx of cash for whatever reason, and Game Pass starts to drop in quality, I'll just cancel it. But that applies to anything. That applies to magazines I subscribed to back in the day. That applies to, if suddenly YouTube Premium that I subscribe to, and I love getting my music off YouTube Premium, if suddenly they only start playing thrash metal, I'll unsubscribe. It's real easy. Why don't you call in, Retro? I don't understand. Upvote if you're calling in. Now's the time, baby. Virgil says Marvel's Avengers, which was just announced to be on PS Now tomorrow, was a flop. Mostly. I mean, it was a disappointment. I don't know if I know enough to say it was a flop, and I don't think you do either, but you might. This is Square Enix, another bad published game with People Can Fly deserve all the backlash. Oh yeah, I mean that's a different thing. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think they deserve the death threats. But certainly they deserve to be angry, and they deserve to express that anger. I agree. That's exactly what we talked about. Brian King says Microsoft's about face NVIDIA with ARM, and that favors Google. They have serious competition. Yeah, I mean, good. People act like I'm not a fan of Microsoft. They're great. They're nice people. I've met them. They're good people over there. But I don't, as long as I get games and I get lots of cool games to play, I don't give a fuck. Who gives a fuck how it's getting made? I'm 35, says Novadamus. I've collected my whole life. They're like trophies, as stupid as that is. I like showing my collection. It's not stupid. It's totally great. I'm just saying you're not in the majority. You deserve to be annoyed by it. But what you don't get to do, and I know this, you're a logical guy, but what you don't get to do is bypass the logic circuitry of your brain that says, just because I don't like it, I'm going to assume everyone's like me. You're logical enough that you're in the minority is all. That's all I'm saying. Nothing is wrong with thrash metal. I'm saying I don't listen to it on the regular, and if I was listening to it and that's all they served up, I wouldn't do it. That's all I mean. That's all I goddamn mean. Hang on, let me bring in John in just a second. Where did that go? Did I hear about season 3 of Rocket League, Heath? No, I did not. I don't know what is something interesting. There's a major reason, says Eddie T. I will never subscribe to a service like Game Pass. I don't want to contribute to the downfall of physical games. I mean, I appreciate that, but it's happening. It's coming. It's happening. It will happen. There's nothing you can do about it. Not because, I respect that though. I mean, that's fine. Vote with your wallet. Perfect. But do it as a protest. Don't do it because you think it's going to matter, because the majority of people will absolutely think it matters. They want it. Rotten says, okay, Square Enix says they lost $105 million on Avengers. Right. I'm only saying because they're still working on it. They think they're going to turn the corner. Everything that they have said so far about what they're doing to Avengers doesn't sound like it's going to turn the corner, because ultimately, I mean, I played Outriders this weekend. I instantly enjoyed it. I didn't know the story or the franchise. There was no pre-built love for the characters like there was with Avengers. Once I got off the bridge scene in Avengers, it became very boring and very rote. And if it was like a Lego game. And if it wasn't for the Avengers, I would have just been like, fuck this shit, right? Outriders, instantly the loop is fun. It's addictive. I'm a big fan of it. So adding some more robot types probably isn't going to make that big of a difference is all I'm saying. But I don't know if we can write the obituary yet is all I'm saying about Avengers. Okay, let me bring in John. Oh, okay, yes. Let me bring in Rob the Mod. Are you there? No, Rob's not there.
Yeah, hello.
Is this John? Oh,
yeah.
Is John there? Is this?
Yeah, that's me.
Is this player? Oh, this is John Ross. John Ross, what's up, man?
Oh, hey, man. I was just wondering, like, why do you hate niggers?
Why do I hate makers? You mean like people who create things like phones and things like that? I don't. I just don't know how to do it. So I'm probably a little bit jealous of maybe their aptitude at doing things that are, out of my ability. I was never been a fix-it guy. That's all I'll say. Player Purple, what's up, man? How you doing?
What's going on, Jaffe? Can you hear me?
I can hear you great. What's up?
Awesome. No, just trying to erase that, what the fuck that last caller was from my head. That's unfortunate. Anyway, I just want to talk about one point about Game Pass that I feel like isn't brought up a lot, and I thought you might have a good take on it.
Okay.
So, I've heard you making a lot of good points about music and movies, right? And I agree wholeheartedly. Like most people, they kind of want to consume movies once. They kind of want to listen to songs, like when they're popular or whatever. And revisit isn't really something they do. So a service where they might quote unquote take it away from you, it's not that big a deal, right? You've already kind of quote unquote consumed the product at that point, right?
You're talking about with movies.
I'm talking about with music and movies. Yes.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I think I think there are some issues though when you try to apply the same thing to games, because it's true that some games, first of all, some games totally are linear media like music, and like I for example, I have no desire to replay The Last of Us or whatever because I kind of already, it's a very linear game. However, I think there are certain kind of evergreen system-based games that every single time you play them, you experience something different. I think fighting games are like that. I think multiplayer shooters are like that.
Yep.
And because of that, I think games, there's a lot more incentive for people to kind of revisit them down the line. And I think that is where I personally kind of run into a bit of an issue with Game Pass because, there's always this idea at the back of my head that, oh man, I have to quote unquote finish this game before it's taken off the service, or else I'll feel like I'm not getting my money's worth. When that's kind of, I don't know, I feel like that's kind of antithetical to what Game Pass is about. Microsoft seems to sell Game Pass as if it's this end all be all, as if, you'll never need to buy another game once you buy Game Pass. You can just enjoy that library. But in reality, it kind of feels more like a service, like a gateway to get you to try a game. Maybe you might like it, and then it gets taken off the service, and you're like, oh wait, but I wasn't done playing that. I kind of want to go back to it. Oh, well, here you go. We'll sell that game to you for a measly 20% discount. It's for me, and I'm talking about non-Microsoft games, obviously. So because full Microsoft ones, they stay there forever. So that's like the one thing for me with Game Pass. I feel like as a medium, video games are consumed differently than music and movies, and because of that, I think the business model should kind of be adjusted to reflect that. I'm just wondering what you think about that.
Well, I think the business model, I think the games have been adjusted to reflect the shitty business model for way too long, to the point that we open this stream talking about how some of y'all have Stockholm syndrome with accepting padding in games, accepting the fact that the only reason you finish a game is not because you want to finish it, but because you want to get a trophy at the end, right? The business model has hurt the medium up until this point. Okay, so I'm a fan of what sub-services are doing because it allows for the games to actually, just like with what you're seeing in television, it allows for the games to be what they really need to be to express themselves in their best form, because you're getting it as part of this package. You're not tying it to a $60 initial purchase. But yes, do I think there will be scenarios and situations where maybe like with Outriders, let's say Outriders becomes the next Destiny and everyone falls in love with it and it's on Game Pass, and then 5 months from now, Square says, hey, we're taking it off Game Pass and all the sub-services. You have to buy it now for $70. Well, yeah, that will suck, but ultimately you got to play it for 5 months as for basically anywhere from a penny to $15, depending on what have you. And I do think there will be those cases, and that, Monster Train is the same. If Monster Train, or I'm playing a game right now called Dwarf Romantic, which is brilliant. It sounds stupid, terrible name, but whatever. And it's not on Game Pass, I got it on Steam. But if it was on Game Pass and I discovered it on Game Pass, I wouldn't have discovered it to begin with. So part of it, it's almost like a finder's fee. But I discovered it on Game Pass, and then suddenly they say, okay, it's going away next month. Well, then I guess I would have to buy it. I mean, I hear you. By the way, I'm not saying that's not annoying. I'm saying that the upside is so much more valuable. Do you have Game Pass?
Oh, I absolutely do, and I just want to clarify.
Do you
I
do you
got
enjoy
it on
it?
Game Pass. Well, I do, but with a caveat though. Like it's I got in on Game Pass the same way I'm sure a lot of it. There was a deal last year, or I guess 2019, where Microsoft would convert all of your Xbox Live Gold into Game Pass Ultimate for $1,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Yep.
So basically what it came down to, and they let you do it for up to 3 years. So I did that. So for 3 years, it basically came down to like $180 for $181 divided by 36 months came out to about $5 a month. I think that price is great for what Game Pass is, right? That because it's basically a rental service.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is, I think as a rental service, I agree 100% with what you said about discovery, right? There are so many amazing games that I would never have discovered if it weren't for Game Pass. Like I just played this cool.
No, I
game
got
called-
you. I got you. It makes sense. I mean, again, I'm going to disconnect you, but Player Purple, call back anytime. I appreciate it. I will respond to that
No, it's
right
all
now.
good.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I get it. I absolutely get it. It is not for everybody, but I do think it is for a large percentage. We got game design, game creation royalty. I know he's probably like, Jeffy, stop doing it. I can't, Max. You're a big deal. By the way, I mean, it doesn't matter. I saw you went fishing. That was cool. Here's the point. Max Ankar does all the effects for the God of War games. He's in the chat. He said, no, this is another industry perspective, so don't take it from Papa Jaffe. Take it from Maxwell. Max says, I do agree with you, David. Things are headed to a Game Pass-like environment. What do you think will happen to teams' bonuses? Will they be based on how many people download your game? It's a great question. Here's what I can tell you, Max. Every deal, from what I understand, is different. So even when we did Drawn to Death, which was not profitable, but it was with PlayStation Plus. And PlayStation Plus, because it's a different division of PlayStation, still had to negotiate with first party. And they came to first party and said, okay, we will pay you X millions. And it just so happened that what they paid us was half of the budget of the development budget, right? So what it did in our case is that we as the developers, as these contracts usually tend to be, once we were into profit, we had a percentage payout that Sony would pay us after we reached their definition of profit. And in that, it got us closer to getting that. But if you only make your money on a subscription service, my assumption is the deals I don't know if Ophir would consider himself still my agent. I haven't thrown him any work in a while. But Ophir, who's the biggest game agent in the world over at UTA, I'm sure he is making these deals, and that's exactly the stuff they're working on. Very much like what HBO Max just had to deal with, where they said, okay, we have to renegotiate a bunch of these actors and directors and producer fees because these movies are not coming to theaters. So I don't have an answer, but my answer, other than to say, of course it will be solved, because the company that comes along and says, here's how we're going to incentivize getting the best teams to work for us, if they make a successful hit on a subservice, they're going to rule the roost, and everyone's going to have to fall in line, or the best creators won't work with that company anymore. But I don't know specifically how it's going to work. I think that's currently being noodled over and whatnot. Okay, Upvote Bandit, I'm bringing you in. Where are you at, pal? What's going on?
All right, Jaffe, can you hear me?
Yep, what's up?
Well, I've been debating if I was going to call in or not, because I'm just surprised by the amount of people that I've heard on the chat, on the Discord, on Twitter, on all social media, that it just seems like so many people have a problem with Game Pass and PS Now, and it's just mind-boggling to me.
Maybe they haven't. Maybe they haven't played it. Maybe, do you think that's it? Possibly.
Well, I feel like some of it is, yeah, because I see a lot of PlayStation fanboys always talking shit about Game Pass, and I'm under the impression that they've never even messed with it, so they don't really have any like real grounds to base it off of. And I see Xbox people talking shit about PS Now and whatever. For me, I have both, and I also want to just point out and make it known that if it was up to me, I would prefer physical media. I like to buy my games physically. I like to physically own the game or whatever it is that I'm buying. Because you do see these situations where digital games are being pulled from the stores, they're no longer available. I have Marvel vs. Capcom 2 on my 360 still that apparently you can't purchase anymore. And it sucks for the people that may want to buy that game that they just can't do it now on the digital front.
Yeah.
But my thing is like, I just don't understand why people are so against a service that gives gamers more access to more games than ever before. Like, I don't understand.
If I were going to psychoanalyze it, and I am going to bring a therapist on the stream really soon, like in the next 4 weeks, to talk about fans and just how crazy they are. I want a learned person to explain this to me. But if I was gonna backseat psychoanalyze it, I really think not all. Like, there are people who have called in and they have said, I really like owning, or I really like this or that, and it's like, okay, great for you personally. But and I get that. And I get that there were people who were upset record stores shut down. But I think the majority of the vitriol has to do, like, there's a guy in the chat, Ultimate Game Pass is trash, says Virgil. PS Now is even bigger trash. I am one of the first to try Ultimate Game Pass. Look, I think a lot of them, it's total bullshit. I mean, he's right to his opinion. But, and Kratos,
Right,
listen to this. Kratos says Game Pass and PS Now are mostly older games, which is simply not true in the case of Game Pass, right?
That's such bullshit.
But the psycho,
like, where are these people coming from?
They're coming from the place of either one of two things psychologically, I think. I think either A, they are simply afraid of change and they don't like it. And boy, if they spend any time around their own kids or nieces or nephews, they'd be sucker punched to know how little the younger generation of gamers give a fuck about what they care about. Or they are just hardcore fanboys and they do not like Xbox and they want their purchase to be validated. And in that, they will say and do anything, no matter how irrational. That's what I think it is, Upvote. Thanks for the call as always, buddy. I hope you're well. Thanks for calling in. I'm glad you decided to.
Thank you.
All right, man. Talk soon. There's a narrative says Sam Aksh that buying games is morally superior. People need to realize it's a market and people go towards value. Feelings don't matter. Of course. That's the funniest part. Somebody asked me about Last of Us on Game Pass. They said, Jaffe, okay, well, I got to deal with Virgil for a minute. I don't want to bore you. I'm just going to show you this really fucking lickety split if I can. What do I have booted up? I was going to bring up, hang on a minute. Nah, I'll show you. All I can tell you is anybody who's out there telling you that Game Pass is trash, you may not like it and it may not be for you, and I respect that. But I was going to show you, but I can't get it up and running. I think I have my PlayStation hooked up. All you have to do is go look at the menu of Game Pass right now. It is loaded with new games, day one drop games. I'm playing Indiana Jones in the fucking Emperor's Tomb, which is from like 2003. It is phenomenal. You don't have to like it, but you can lie about it, but I'm going to call you a goddamn fucking dirty liar. That's the goddamn truth. I'm coming from being 23 years old. No, 23 with PlayStation, says Virgil, and I tried Ultimate Game Pass for 1 year. I don't like the ecosystem. I tried it, and Ultimate Game Pass sucks ownership, or it sucks. Ownership is better than renting games. Great. That's for you. But, and you have a right to your opinion, but you don't represent the majority. And I know that because Game Pass is doing so well that it is literally starting to hurt Sony in the hardware market. And we've been getting little foreshocks of that. We got it this weekend in India. We got it this weekend with a couple of other things. We got it this weekend or this morning when Jim Ryan announces we're putting Avengers on PS Now because they have to punch back. Merkham, what's up?
Yeah, this goes back to the earlier topic about 007.
Yep.
Game not having the model of the movie.
Yes.
And I was wondering, you said this is gonna feel like a generic spy game, right?
Well, I think it could be a brilliant game, but the risk they run is it's just going to be like it could be any spy.
Well, I see that you said that, but you had an opposite opinion for Marvel's Avengers. Like, one of the reasons that a lot of people said the Avengers game was going to fail because it didn't have the models from the movies, and you said, well, the IP is so strong enough that
Yeah.
it doesn't need the models of the movie.
I thought
I'm trying to figure out why is that different now?
Well, it's not, because I was wrong. I predicted that the Avengers was going to be the hit game of 2020 Christmas season. And not because I thought it was brilliant. I did a whole video about it. That opening sequence on the bridge, if you put that in a superhero fan or a kid's hand or a fan of the movies and go, you get to be Thor, Captain America, the Hulk. Oh, well, you didn't get to be Cap on the bridge, but whatever. You know, it's awesome. And it was. But the game very quickly kind of falls apart into a very dull rinse and repeat loop. But I was like, but the franchise is so strong, I think most average gamers won't care. I was wrong. You know, we had a guy in the chat just now tell us that Square says so far, I know they're hoping to bounce back, but they've lost over $100 million off it. So it turns out, but again, I don't know if that's the reason or if that's the main reason. I think a bigger reason is word of mouth fucking killed it, because a lot of people said it's boring. And it is. It's boring.
It was one of the reasons, like, it was one of the many reasons why a lot of people said the game wasn't going to do well, but you definitely said that the IP was great enough, and you just admitted you was wrong.
Well, I was,
they didn't care about the models.
But I'll tell you something that's interesting about that, though, is, you know, the jury has to still be out on that, because look at Spider-Man. They don't have Tom Holland. They have a totally different looking Peter Parker in Insomniac Spider-Man. So my guess is that if Avengers would have come out and Avengers would have ultimately been a great game, the people who would have been concerned about what you're saying about the actors, they would have ultimately gotten over that. But you know, because they got over it with Peter Parker, right?
Yeah.
All right, man. I appreciate the call. It's
one
good.
More question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you said that. Well, all right. Another thing is, you said the IP was great enough to transfer into another medium. It's so fucking big, it can transfer into another medium without no problem. Do you believe that the Call of Duty series can do the same thing in movies and transfer their IP for like the Modern Warfare trilogy and have a $1 billion movie franchise as well, or not?
You mean, are you talking about Avengers or James Bond?
No, I'm talking about Call of Duty. Like, for
No,
instance,
I know, but what was the comparison?
The comparison was Infinity War. Avengers movies are so great that movie cinematic universe is so great it can transfer into the video.
Got
game,
it. Right.
Medium.
Okay.
And have no problem with transferring. But
Okay.
of course, it was a problem with that transfer. So I was wondering, do you think the Call of Duty IP can transfer into the movie side and have a $1 billion franchise as well in a cinematic universe, or not?
Gotcha. Okay, let me answer
That's
that.
my last question.
All right, I'm going to hang up, but I'll answer that right now. Thanks for the call, buddy. Call back anytime. All right. So my answer to that is no. I think it's possible that Call of Duty or Uncharted or Borderlands or the new Resident Evil movie that just got delayed, or Monster Hunter, if it would have been a great movie, all of those are capable if they have a great script. But unlike going in reverse, as much as people want to poo-poo comic books, the original source material, you go back and read Spider-Man from '63, it's hard to get through because it's creaky and it's archaic. But the fundamentals of storytelling, which is what movies, unless they're experimental or documentaries, even documentaries, mostly is storytelling. The fundamentals and that DNA of Spider-Man, or the essence of Captain America, or the essence of Superman was there, if not at the beginning, close to the beginning. Video games, Call of Duty is Saving Private Ryan. If you remember Call of Duty when it came out, it was World War II, and it came out after everybody was losing their shit over Saving Private Ryan. Uncharted is Tomb Raider and Indiana Jones. Most, so I would say most video games that are big successes are built on the cultural zeitgeist appropriation and heavy lifting that's already been done by other mediums, right? So I don't think, unless you have a screenwriter come in and write Call of Duty, and it's a great story unto itself, and maybe sure it happens to be Uncharted, or it happens to be Call of Duty essence of gameplay elements, but those have to be invented, right? There are video games that I do think are better candidates, but they rarely get picked up. I don't like David Cage's games all that much, but I think Detroit Become Human could make a phenomenal movie. Okay, it's way too on the nose, and it would need to be written by a more subtle hand, but it would make a great movie. I think What Remains of Edith Finch would make a phenomenal movie. Life is Strange would make a phenomenal movie. Metal Gear is so unique and different and weird. So is, even though I don't like the gameplay of Death Stranding, that could make a great movie because those are unique, interesting stories unto themselves. But when you mention Call of Duty is just, same old, that's just executed brilliantly. No one's writing home about the story of most of these games. Okay. Well, fellas, we did it. That's our show. That's the chat. Let me just give you some heads up. Joe was asking in the chat what movie night is this week. We did not have movie night this weekend because we did Godzilla earlier in the week. This month, we for sure will be doing Mortal Kombat on the 23rd. We will be doing Pot and Popcorn this Saturday. I don't know what the movies are. There's a bunch of changes coming to this channel in terms of certain shows being pre-recorded, some new shows coming up. Just stay tuned. If you like the show and you're new here, welcome, subscribe, do all that nonsense. Hit the notification bell. In fact, hit the notification bell and don't do personal. Do notification or you won't get it all the time. I will be streaming a game later tonight, probably. We will see. In the meantime, though, thank you for all the comments, the great conversation, the calls, the super chats, the memberships. The door closes tonight at midnight. If you want to be a God of War member and get the gift, which comes 3 times a year, and you never know when it's going to come, but I'm telling you it's coming in April. If you sign up by tonight, you'll get one. If you don't, oh well. I'm not going to tell you what the giveaway is. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you for a while because it involves a number of people that I have to sort of wrangle into it. And in wrangling them in, I want to make sure all of it gets done the way I want it done, and then I will screenshot out images. Also, birthday cards for God of War members will be going out this week. They came in finally, and I'm now going to mail them out. Thank you, fellas. I appreciate it. I'll see you guys online in videos, the next stream, whatever. Be safe.